Islam. We're gonna take care of the readings at the top of the meeting instead of at the end today. Brother Kobe, you got the writs?
Islam, yes I do.
Islam, praise Allah. I'll call on you to read the writs after the meeting is opened. Brother Jackson Bay, you got the Constitution and bylaws?
Islam.
Praise Allah, praise Allah. Brother Seymour Bay, you got the additional laws?
Islam.
Praise Allah. Islam. Anyone want to read the divine warning this evening? I'm not sure who all has that, the divine warning.
Islam, I'm in traveling. Peace and love. Just going through a little traffic right now.
Islam, praise Allah. Thank you for that, brother. I'll be sure not to call on you since you are traveling. Peace and love, Brother Lawson L. Thank you for joining us. All is well?
All is well, sister. Peace and love. Islam.
Praise Allah. Brother, do you have the divine warning?
Hold on. I don't think so. I can probably read it out of the Moorish literature.
Moorish literature. Islam, yes, it is in the Moorish literature.
Yeah. I don't have it separate. Hold on.
Islam. It's on page 17 for everyone who wants to read along. But at the end of the meeting, brother, if you will read that for us before we close out this
Islam.
evening. Praise Allah. Thank you, brother. Islam, without further ado, I'm going to open the meeting. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If all you beautiful Moors can rise and face the east, if you can, put 2 fingers up on the right hand, 5 fingers up on the left hand, with your feet at a 45-degree angle in a cactus pose. You can repeat after me. Allah.
Allah.
Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night and by day.
By night and by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen. I announce that the meeting is now open. Giving the highest praise to the Most High Father God Allah. Honors to his prophet Noble Drew Ali for bringing us our divine created nationality. Honors to the forerunner of the prophet Marcus Mosiah Garvey for preparing the way for purity. Honors to all adept sheiks and faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America Divine National Movement. Honors to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheik appointed by the prophet himself, Brother E. Miliel. Honors to the current Supreme Grand Sheik, Brother K. Dandridge L. Honors to Grand Sheik Emeritus, Brother David Bailey L. Islam, honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and honors to all you Muslims in attendance. Islam, Islam,
Islam,
Islamism,
Islamism.
Islam, Muslim. Brother Jackson Bay, if you may, read the Constitution and bylaws for us, brother.
Islam, praise Allah, honors to the Prophet Drew Ali, honors to the Muslims. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Act 1, the Grand Sheik and Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America, is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and partial of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slave holders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guides of his father God Allah. Noble Jew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office of Noble Jew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islam, brother. Gratitude for that reading. Praise Allah. Brother Kobe, would you read the writs for us, please?
Islam. I rise and give praise to great God Allah. Rise and give praise to our Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Rise and give honors to all Muslims on the call and all Muslims on the planet. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instructions from your Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Jew Ali. And that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people for their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation, for their salvation, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and the uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That's why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. Gratitude for that reading, brother. Brother Seymour Bay, can you read the additional laws for us?
Islam.
Praise Allah.
First, I rise and give praise to the Most High, Father God Allah. I give honors to his prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Peace and blessings to all you Moors on the call. Questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause a member to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group or members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restrictions, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their added meetings and the public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around in the meeting period, he shall be fined 50 cents on the first, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance, to aid me in saving the nation. If he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while making a public speech, must not use any assertions against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school. And the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire and let every member exercise his five senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school come the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must now proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey their fathers and mothers and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. Gratitude for that reading, brother. Okay, now we're going to go into the keys. Number 60. Who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? And that's the angels. What is the modern name for those angels? Asiatics. What is the shade of their skin? Olive. Are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels? Yes, we all have the same father and mother. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. This one is really deep. Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. What is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. How many selves are there? 2. Name them. Higher self and lower self. What people represent the higher self? The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. Now, if we go back to key 60, who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? That's those same angels, y'all. Okay, let's get back to the keys. Key 66. How many cells are there? 2. Name them higher and lower. What people represent the higher self? The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. Key 69. What people represent the lower self? Those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teachings. Key 70. What is the higher self? The higher self is the mother of virtue and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. Islam.
Islam.
Now we're going to break those keys down. Do anybody have any questions or comments?
Islam. Key 60. When we're asking what shade were there, you said olive. Would we also consider that pale?
Islam, that's key 62. Okay, what is the shade of their skin? Now, if we remember, Prophet Noble Drew Ali said we're not black, we're olive toned, and olive can be very light to very dark. So that's us. When we have to describe ourselves, we do not use black or white. we do use olive toned.
Mm.
Islam?
Islam.
Islam. So yeah, the unripe olive is green, and of course we eat those as well. But as they ripen, they change from green to light brown, all the way to dark brown, even all the way to real dark, like black. And so the prophet used that word olive to describe our skin because our skin tone, obviously it's not just one tone. Just even in the people that's on this call. And then also in the Islamic tradition, the blessed olive tree is a symbol of Islam, the root of which means peace. So he's just tying this in because we obviously we have different skin tones. And so when you hear olive skin tone, it's referring to the different skin tones that our people have. We don't all just look one way.
Islam.
And before we speak on the questions, I wanted to read a little bit from the Moorish literature just to put everything in a proper perspective. I'm going to read real shortly. Drew Ali in time. Allah has sent us a prophet and sent him in time with a holy message, which is divine. Now, remember, the top pages of our Quran, all throughout the Holy Quran, it says divine instructions on the one side, and then on the other page at the top, it says from the prophet. And so that's letting us know the whole entire Quran contains divine instructions from the Holy Prophet. Everything in there, this is law for us. So he sent him in time with the holy message, which is divine. It's right on time. Everything that's happened, doesn't matter if it appeared to be something negative that made the movement go backwards or stagnate. It doesn't matter because people are just waking up to this right now. Because why? Because the message was right on time. So he sent him in time with the holy message, which is divine. He came to let the Asiatics of America know they are of the ancient family of the Moors. His speech was to the Asiatics first. Why? Because they have been sinners since their departure from their forefathers' religion. And remember, that's in there throughout. That's in the Quran. That's even in our divine constitution. We're suffering not because of what someone else is doing to us, because we're going along with it. Why? Because in the beginning of the Quran, it lets us know that Allah is in us. And if we are spiritual manifestations of Allah in the physical, right? If spirit man is Allah in us, and we have the power to create our reality, okay, that means that nothing can hold us back, nothing can stop us. We have to go along with it in order for it to occur and for it to happen. So always the not the blame, but always the reason for the condition that we're in is placed on us. All right. And the power that we have is being returned to us. And the reason why we hold to this and we study is because it's a process. You can't just get the keys to the kingdom and not truly know how to use the power that we have. So we have to work on who first? Ourselves, each and every last one of us, right? So it's a process because with power, comes responsibility. And so we're not victims. So the prophet said his speech was to the Asiatics first. Why? Because they have been sinners since their departure from their forefathers' religion. O sinners, why don't you hear the soul of Islam ringing in your ears? The prophet has said that if I were you, I would get ready before you are made to do so. And we can see that happening. Just a few days ago, there was an announcement from the New Zealand government. This was actually on CNN that they have camps. And, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but they're saying that New Zealand government has camps that they created for putting people in who refuse to take the vaccine for the coronavirus. Okay. And so I'm not trying to scare anyone with that, don't worry about that stuff. But at the same time, the prophet said, if I were you, I would get ready before you are made to do so. Okay. We have to get in alignment. We have to return back to our ancient ways. We have to get it together. We can't suffer unless we're going along with this stuff. Now come and pick up your forefathers and mothers' ancient and divine creed, which carries your national name indeed. It will entitle you to your rights, which you have been denied, right? Nobody can force us to take vaccines or do anything, because in 1774, your light was cut off from the ancient Moors, and that is why Allah has sent to us a prophet in 1886 to prepare the light that was out. In 1925, the prophet said, I have mended the broken wires and have connected them with the higher powers. So come on, Asiatics, don't you want to go? We were marching on to Canaan. I used to think that was a city in the sky, but now I know it is here on earth. Don't you want your share? So just reading this, we go over the questions, the Quran, anything that we're doing, we're not just doing this for no reason. Okay, we're doing this to enlighten ourselves, to build ourselves up, so that we can do what is necessary. Another thing I want to read shortly is Masterpiece of Religious Literature, Secrets of Other Creeds Revealed. And this is by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So remember, when the Prophet speaks, we're paying attention. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali has spent many hours preparing the latest edition of the Quran, which will be a masterpiece of religious literature. To Americanize the Oriental idea of Islam involves many changes that are more or less negative to the main purpose of the Islamic religion. Such changes are carefully considered with the idea to avoid changing the complexion of the original text. The philosophy of the ancient prophets is the main initiative in the compilation of the Quran. No thoughts of propaganda enter this work, as has been the case in many former religious works, such as the Bible and other books of creed. The sole purpose of the prophet in giving such a message to the world is to save fallen humanity. When a compiler attempts to inject propaganda into a work of this kind, there arises a need to cover the true text in order to prevent a clash with the truth and ideas involved in such propaganda. Former works of this kind have either hindered or helped the nations proportionately to the adherence to the truth as to the original purpose of keeping the ignorant in such a state. It is hard to resist the temptation to use this medium for gain. Hence, many of the former treaties on works of this kind have been the means to foster ideas of the unscrupulous, wherein they desire to use religious influence for gain. The many secrets known to the prophet that could be used for the salvation of the nation were either left out or colored to an extent that their meaning was made void. Such is not the case with this edition of the Quran. Listen to this. All secrets of the ages are known to, all secrets of the ages known to man are put into this work. The secrets known only to the Magi are here revealed. And that's why right in the beginning of the Quran, it's revealed that Allah is in you. And you're told the story of how we came into this, or came into being in the physical. So the secrets known only to the Magi are here revealed. The reading of the stars, the interpretation of marriage relations, the understanding of the span of life, and other such has been kept from the Occidental world. And in this book, they're boldly brought out. The Quran, Americanized as it will be, can be brought in a few weeks. It will be sent to all governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Islam. And then as we go into the Quran questionnaire, really quickly, just going to go back to this cover and just speak on this really briefly. Okay, so you see the prophet once again, and I want us all to understand this, what's on the cover, so that we can explain this to our family, right? You see the prophet holding humanity, lifting humanity out of the cares of the world, right? The waters drowning, humanity's drowning in the cares of the world, and then he's lifting her up to the solid rock of salvation. And this, this picture speaks like it is literally worth 1,000 words. And it's amazing that we see this symbolism here in ancient America. A lot of times you'll see this in places like Mexican restaurants. They'll show the ancient Aztecs with an Aztec figure doing this same thing, right? And that's letting you know that this is ancient. He was one who was inspired by God. He was literally a thought of Allah manifested in the flesh. Does anybody have anything that they want to add to this as to what that really means? Lifting fallen humanity up out of the cares of the world. All right. One of the things, like with the first thing that we're taught, your true nature is revealed to you. And then you're given the understanding, which many of us don't get from religion. Literally, billions of people around the world have no idea that there is no heaven and hell. We're told that right in the beginning. It's a state of mind. So the power and the keys are being returned to you. And then the understanding is being made that we're suffering because what? Because we're not in tune with our higher self. So in here you see the prophet lifting humanity up, but he's giving you the keys so that you can lift yourself up ultimately. And the salvation is on the understanding, the knowledge of who you truly are, because you are your own salvation. All right. And even everything that he's wearing, of course, the fez on his head, the fez represents the union of religion and science coming together with the earthly and divine knowledge. The robe symbolizes the spiritual nature, regenerated. It's also showing his character, noble character. So everything that's in here has meaning, and the keys, the power is being returned to us, right? So that's a powerful image, and that's letting you know or setting the tone for what's to come, you know, when you're looking in here and going through the questions. All right. And so we left off at 61. And then two, if anybody has any questions, feel free just to speak up. But question 61, was the modern name for those angels? And that's referring back to question 60, who's guarding the holy city of Mecca to keep the unbelievers away? Because actually back in the days, before 1950, you could not go into Mecca unless you were a believer. You had to be a Muslim. All right. And so the modern name for those angels is Asiatics. And we're obviously talking about humans. In question 38, it's saying the same thing. Basically, we spoke on that a while back, where the angels are thoughts of Allah manifested in the flesh. And they're here to bring the message to the four corners of the world, which is symbolizing that they're humans, right? Even going into the Quran with Gabriel being the angel of revelation. Gabriel's giving a message. He's a human who's delivering a message, a human messenger. All right. And so, just so that there's no confusion on that, we're talking about actual humans, and they're tasked with the job or to carry the message to the four corners of the world, which means to all the nations. And then the race of these angels was Asiatic because they're olive-hued people, and that's meaning that their origins can be traced to the Garden of Eden. It means that, you know, they're Asiatics. We're related to them. We're Asiatics as well. And then we already spoke on the shade of their skin being olive. Just in case there's any confusion, olives aren't just green or black. They actually change as they ripen from light brown to dark brown. And that's just a symbol of the many different skin tones that we have. And then 63, are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels? And the answer is yes. We all have the same father and mother. And again, though we're getting the plural usage of the term, we're saying those angels. That was also something that we talked about, I believe, last week, when there's a reference to Adam and Eve, and it says Adam and Eve, who are the fathers, plural, and mothers, plural, of the human family, which is letting you know that he wasn't talking about one man and one woman, Adam and Eve. we're talking about a people. All right. And so, excuse that. And so in that, the prophet was saying the modern name given to the children of Adam and Eve was Asiatics. And they're the fathers and mothers of humanity. So we're getting a sense that these were actual people. Not, I mean, you know, like as in a nation, a group of people. And, you know, we're not referring to anything in a singular. And also, which is actually going to go into the next question. This is letting us know in 64, give the names, the 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. All right. So this is letting us know too that the lower self, because we know that this answer, Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, this is referring to the lower nature which sprang forth, the lower nature which is actually a consciousness that the body has. And I'm sorry, we have a question. I'll come back to this. Somebody's got their hand raised.
Islam, I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a comment. Remember the word descend. Okay, it's not, we wouldn't ascend from Adam and Eve. We descend, like Adam and Eve. Okay, like they had to have been a step down. And when we understand how we were created from spirit, soul, and garbed with the flesh, that there was a descend occurring for us to be made in the physical form as me and you today. So as we descended, our will, well, our energies and the ethers had to slow down, and it gave us a sluggish will, right? So with that, we know that that was how, when you hear, you know, when we say the fallen angels, or, you know, we had to fall. We had to go from the spirit man. I mean, we still have the truth in us. We still have spirit man in us as a part of who we are, but we also have that falsehood that had to come with it in order for us to be manifest here on this realm. So we have to really take all the information and knowledge that we know of our creation and all the science behind it to really understand what's being said in that key 64, because they're saying these are the descendants of Adam and Eve. That's Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. And we know that they're the fathers and mothers of all the Asiatics, right? They're the first ones. So they were the first ones to descend Islam. So we came from them, being that we had to be manifested in flesh here. And through that process, we had to descend. So we have that lower self attached to us. And that's what the prophet wanted us to understand, wanted us to learn who we are, study self, know thyself, so that we can kind of slay that lower self and keep it in its place and live through our higher selves, just as our brother Jesus did. Islam.
Islam. So thanks for sharing that. And another thing too with this question was 64, given the 5 names given to the descendants, and we know that it's referring to the lower self. This is insinuating that the lower self didn't originate with Adam and Eve, because as the sister was saying, it descended from them, right? So it came from them, but it didn't start with them. And that's also insinuated in question 59, where it's asking what is, or excuse me, hold up, not 59, hold up, 55, where it's asking what is the name of the first physical man, and then it's saying his name can only be used by the executive rulers. All right, because there's power in that knowledge. So we're given a sense that the lower self, the lower nature, did not originate with the first physical man, which also insinuates, since in the beginning of the Quran, it lets us know that eventually we're to overcome all this, that it doesn't have to be in the position that it's in, where for most of us the lower self is ruling. So the lower self didn't start with the first physical man, because the first physical man did not have a lower self. And that's also supported by the Quran, the Moorish Quran, in chapters 1, 11, and 3. So the origin of the lower self was something that happened after the first physical man, or after Adam and Eve. It descended from them. And it was from them whom the flesh, from their flesh that the lower self sprang. And so with that teaching, that's letting us know also that's not the only way to exist. By having no lower self, that means that man, even in the physical, when we came into the physical, we dwelled in the higher self. We ruled from the higher self. And eventually, as the vibrations got slower and slower, and what do each of the, okay, we have one question. What do each of the 5 names mean? All right. So I'm going to talk about that too, as that's tied into this. So for them not to have a lower self originally means that we're ruled from the higher self. That means that we were in tune with Allah, in tune with the infinite. And eventually, as the vibration slowed down and things got more and more dense here, there became a need for the body to have its own consciousness. And as we started to slow down to the point where we started to consume the weaker beings, or the weaker things in this planet, that's how the entire planet follows suit. And so the body needed a consciousness of itself to survive. And we have a question. What do each of the 5 names mean? And I'm assuming you're talking about Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
Islam, can I'll give 2 definitions for the first 2, if I may. Lucifer, if we look that up, we see a morning star. So, if we go back into just what we know, like being alive, we hear a real popular song that was remade. It's called Lucifer, Son of the Morning. It was a reggae song. So the morning star is known as Lucifer. And if we dig deeper, the morning star is Venus, right? Venus is the planet of love and the woman, all right? So we can dig into that, but that's gonna take us somewhere else. Islam, Satan is Satan seduces humans, right? into sin and falsehood. Also, I want to go back to Lucifer. Lucifer was a cherub of Allah, now in rebellion. Okay, so there's a ton of stories and information just in those 2 right there that we can dig and dissect to see what happened, because we know today the woman, it seems to be, the woman is rising, it's like a phoenix, because in the last, I want to say, 100 years, all over the world, the woman has been kind of pushed back. If we look in Islam in the East, the woman is covered from head to toe, not allowed to show any form of beauty. And that's their tradition. But that is what's marketed as Islam all over the world. And when we look in the Quran, it doesn't say that's how the woman should be, Islam. So that's their traditions. So we do see, like, if we come back over here to the West, that we can go to the witch hunts, and how they were treating the women who knew anything. They were witches. They were stoned. They were burnt. So there's a hatred for the woman in Christianity and in Islam. It's a secret one, but now it's being revealed. And today, in the last 5 years, it seems like every movie or TV show that we watch is bringing the woman back up, because it's been the opposite way for so long that there's no balance. And when there's no balance, there's no peace, there's no justice. So justice must always take its course whenever falsehood and negativity is attached to something for too long. Islam.
And I'm going to answer that question too about the 5 names, but also to add to what you were saying about in the media, like in TV shows and movies, as she said, we do see the program, which is to show the rise of the woman. Like you'll see more heroines, you'll see more females that are like the heroes in the movies, and this is something that's prevalent. It's the obvious message, or this is the program of the day. But there's one problem with that. They're going to do it from their perspective, and they're going to push their own agenda. So if they're going to prop the woman up, they're also going to have Amber Rose out here doing the slut walk. And they want women to think that you're empowering yourself by being out here doing all these, doing all these deviant things with everyone, and empowering the woman by it's her choice to abort babies. And this is the perspective that they're pushing it from, because they're trying to put their own spin on it. So we have to do it from our perspective. So we have to know what's going on. But I do want to bring this home. So I don't want it to be going so far out there. There is a reason why we're teaching this and speaking on this, and it's right in alignment with that question. What do the 5 names mean? Okay, the reason that's in there in 64, giving us the 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. So remember, the lower self had a beginning. It came after man, right? Or after man and woman. It came later. And it was developed, which means it has an end. It has a beginning and an end. And we're given 5 names in this question. And that's not something just to gloss over. Because if you recognize those 5 names, and if you have this understanding, more science, that those 5 names are the 5 personalities of the lower nature, the lower self. These are the 5 disguises that it comes in. And so if you know how it operates, its modus operandi, then you recognize it when your lower self is creeping into your mind, when it's trying to get you to do something. Okay, and so as to answer that question, Lucifer, as the sister said too, that's representing illumination, represents the intellectual mind, without the illumination of the spiritual mind, no, or the true light of the soul. So it's purely intellect. That means it's false light.
Wow.
Satan is the deceiver. That's the deceiver. That's the one who's trying to invite you to get out of alignment with the higher self through disobedience. It's the adversary, it's the deceiver. The devil is the accuser. That's the slanderer. The dragon represents, and I'll repeat this, but the dragon represents greed, passion, lust, perversion. And this is how they're pushing the woman rising. On one aspect, it's cool to see women heroes and, women winning in the movies and stuff like that. But they're pushing perversion, sexual perversion, right? Kill the babies. That's her power. It's her body. This is how they're pushing it. All right. And that's earthbound. They're strictly earthbound. And the beast represents the craving for gross materialism. And so if you recognize this, you're not just seeing that question and just keep going through there, forget that. You're actually studying this and you're writing, taking notes. So you're looking at these 5 characteristics of the lower self. than when we see these happen, in our life, because it's invisible. It's in your mind. When these thoughts come in, that's coming from the lower self. And then with the other tools that we have, is we study the Quran, and we have the tools of the workshop of the mind. Okay, we have the 12-step ladder, the 12 virtues. We know to get our mind back in order with our higher self when we see those things creeping in. And so I'll repeat that. There's those 5 names. Lucifer, that's purely the intellectual mind. Okay, without the spiritual mind, without the true light of the soul, it's false light. The devil is the accuser, the slanderer. Okay, and like we could all fall victim to this stuff. You might feel like you have to prove something to somebody, and you're talking bad about someone else. That's the devil. It doesn't matter how cool and smart and wonderful you are. It happens to us all. Right? Satan is the deceiver. And but the dragon represents passion, greed, and lust, perversion, ignorance. And that too, that online thing, if you're online like that, and you might see people and they're representing all these things, don't even entertain it. if somebody's just ignorant, you already know that's the dragon, that's lower self. Don't even entertain it. Dwell in the higher self. That's a test for you. It's not even about them. That's a test for you, because, like, for example, not just you, for me, if I'm entertaining it, what am I doing? I'm bringing myself down. I'm in my lower self. So these are tools for us. The beast represents the craving for gross materialism. And this is pushed heavy in our music, right? Hip hop is an indigenous American music form. Right? If I'm like a European anthropologist, this is how they would describe hip hop. This is the indigenous music, jazz, hip hop. So hip hop has been co-opted. It got infiltrated a long time ago, and they pushed the beast, gross materialism, craving for it, willing to kill for it, right? And so this is important. If we understand this, then we know the characteristics of the lower self. Remember, it has a beginning and an end. It's limited. It's earthbound. All right. And so if we know how it comes at us, we recognize it. Now you're like Jesus. When Jesus was in the woods by himself for 40 days and 40 nights, and he's being tested. There's no devil with red skin and horns, that's testing him. It's himself, right? He's in silent meditation. And it's like, okay, yeah, go on and jump off this cliff. You won't die. It's just like, why are you trying to prove this? To who? To what? So he's getting these things coming to him, but he recognizes it. Why? He's a mastermind. He knows the 5 characteristics that the lower self comes in. It's cunning, right? It knows how to appeal to us, but it's limited to that. It's not omnipotent. It's not Allah. So it's going to come to you in those 5 ways. And if you recognize it, you can be an adept mind. You can be a mastermind when you see that coming. Okay. And sometimes the test may just be somebody online just saying something ignorant or, something perverted, anything like that. It could be something like that. And if you're entertaining it, you're getting in the lower self. Right. And that's how come also, if you're letting people know that you're more, as soon as you say something ignorant, they're going to turn on you. Oh, I thought you were more. What? Why are you saying all this stuff? Right? You're supposed to be better than that. Okay. And so, so it's important. I'm glad you asked that. Because if we know what each of those names mean, we're not just reading this and keeping it going. We're understanding that those are the characteristics. It's being called out to you. We're being given the keys. We know the keys. Now we know how to avoid this. Now we can be more successful in life. Islam. Did you have a question?
Add to that? No, that was beautifully put. I also want to just remind everyone that Christianity was given to the European for his earthly salvation, and Islam was given to us for our earthly and divine salvation. Um, so when you was breaking that down, that made me remember that when you said, you know, the lower self is just earthbound. Okay, there's layers to this onion. Okay, we, like I said, are truth and falsehood strangely mixed. So we are not just earthbound. We have a divine nature, Islam. And when we study the teachings of the Prophet and we study Islamism and more science, we get those keys and we could take them and make with those keys our divine nature strong. Islam.
Islam. Thank you for sharing that. So remember, by having this insight now, you can be more successful. There's actually a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad reportedly said that one learned believer is more formidable to Satan than 1,000 ordinary believers. Learned meaning you understand, you know how this is going to come at you, right? You're wise. You have insight that others don't. Okay. And so somebody else may be sincere, but they can't even identify the lower self when it's coming at them. Remember, that's that's devil, dragon, beast, Lucifer, Satan. That's it. And they might not even know. It's just them. It's your human mind. It's your body consciousness. Okay. But you know that each of those characteristics, you know, they come with characteristics that you can recognize. They come with different disguises. Okay. And so this is how you could choose. No one's expecting you to be perfect. This is just how you can bypass that these temptations, these things that come at you, because you can recognize it. A lot of times it's only in having understanding is how you can be successful. And so people that are ignorant, just because they don't have that understanding, they may suffer. Just because they can't recognize their enemy, you recognize it. And that is where the power is, and now you can act on it. Islam. So yeah, glad those questions were asked. That was perfect. Can't just skip over that. Remember those 5 names. When you see that, those are the 5 characteristics. That's how the lower self comes at you. Okay, it's limited to that. It has to come at you one of those 5 ways. All right. So moving on to 65. What is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. All right. And so by the prophet actually teaching us what the devil truly is, Satan truly is, he's giving us power. We have protection from the harmful influences because we know who it truly is. There's a lot of, and I don't say this in a disrespectful way, there's a lot of Muslims from the East that don't know this. They don't even know this. They're thinking it's something outside of them. But we know who the devil truly is and even where it is. All right? It's not some invisible, mystical adversary to Allah. Why would God create something that's going to be his adversary that can actually be like that? That makes no sense. It's not. No, this makes perfect sense. It's the consciousness of the body that is purely concerned with increasing its pleasure, with its sensations here on an earthly level. That's why that consciousness will have you strung out on drugs or have you doing things that lead you to being imprisoned or murdered, right? It's purely concerned, it's stuck, it's earthbound. And the only reason we would say that it's a devil is because if it's ruling, if it's running the show, If your mind, if your decisions are all being made from that level of consciousness, it is the devil, because it's going to lead to destruction. And not only you, but as we're told in the Quran, it's seeking the earth, and in the questionnaire, seeking whom it can devour. Okay? So from that perspective, yes, it is the devil. But when you are ruling from your higher self, all right, that nullifies all of that. Okay, so we're getting rid of all that, red skin, red horned creature stuff, pointed ears and the tail and all that stuff, pitchfork. No, that's baby talk. That means nothing to us. We understand what it really is. And then in chapter 3 of our Moorish Holy Quran, Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us what? The only devil from which man must be redeemed is self, the lower self. So it's none other than our carnal nature that sprang forth from the flesh. And that's revealing that it's earthbound. It doesn't exist on the plane of soul or on the plane of spirit. It comes into existence with the birth of the human body. And it is limited to this plane of existence. Where there's no human body, there's no lower self, there's no devil. And that's the ultimate truth. And that's why when I was reading from the Moorish literature earlier about the secrets of all the religious creeds, the secrets of the Magi, all of this being revealed and returned to us, that's why I wanted to read that, because this is an ultimate truth. It's easy to overlook, but that's the high up truth that many don't have. Masterpiece of religious literature, secrets of other creeds revealed. Okay, and just to go back to that really quickly, all the secrets of the ages known to man are put into this work. The secrets known only to the Magi are here revealed. That's powerful. A lot of people don't understand it. Some people say this, but they don't really know. And by studying this, gaining a deeper understanding of it, some people just read the questionnaire. They don't even explain anything to the people, right? Just memorize this. Don't know what it means. No, we need to understand what it means, because having this, and you're going back out in the streets, you're out in the world, this empowers you. Now you can really be a Moorish American, and it really means something. Islam. But that understanding is important and key. Okay. And hopefully everybody's taking notes and you wrote down those characteristics of the late Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, beast. We all need to know what that is, because it happens all the time. You need to be able to recognize it. Islam, we have another question.
Islam. I wanted to go back to key 65 because the prophet didn't say what is Satan sometimes called, or what is the devil. What is dragon sometimes called. He said, what is the devil sometimes called? And when you broke down, the names, the devil is the accuser. So we have to really think about that part, because the accuser is the lower self part of, the devil. So we need to dissect that a little bit, to see, just break down the devil, because the prophet didn't do nothing by accident, because he could have said, what is the beast sometimes called? He could have said, what is Satan sometimes called? But he said, what is the devil sometimes called? He pointed that specifically out of those 5 for us to, we got to know ourselves. We have to know both selves. So we have to really see that part, because when we accuse others and we constantly dwell in, well, this happened to me because of them. Well, this, we accuse, as a people, we accuse the white man, for everything that goes wrong in our lives. And We have to stop that. We have to stop living in lack and limitation and fear and start being accountable and responsible for our person, for who we are and what we are doing and what's happening in our lives, because we manifest whatever we want. Everything in our lives comes from within.
Islam. And just to hit on what you just said, that's why, like what you said about us kind of having a victim mentality, that's why the media will throw resources behind that mentality. They will pump and promote that mentality to us hardcore. That's why they're still to this day making slave movies, slavery films. And it's ridiculous. And it's really going to be ridiculous. I have some information I want to share. It's going to be a whole lecture about just the reality of how Europeans were getting enslaved up into the late 1800s.
Islam.
By our people. So why are they pushing this narrative of us just like that we're the victim? Why would they do that? Doesn't that make them look bad? They don't care about that. They want us to feel disempowered and weak and not take responsibility for our own conditions, because we're not even thinking deeper. We're not even thinking that, hey, we need to define who we are. We're not even thinking outside the box if we're like that, right? And that keeps us stuck. And maybe that's the only reason they can still exist, but that's something, that's something for another discussion. But we really have to get out of that box, because if we're so powerful, if we're so wonderful, how come we're able to be ruled over, right? It's our own fault for going along with this. We have to control our mind state, and that's why the prophet always puts it right back on us for our own salvation. We have the power. The keys of civilization were and are in the hands of the Asiatics. All right. So it's always been on us. And moving on. Question 66. How many cells are there? We talked about this. We know that we live in a world of duality, right? You have male and female, hot, cold, light, darkness, sun and moon, the yin and yang, positive and negative. And so in the physical realm, that manifests in the higher self and the lower self. And that's where we get good and evil from, because when the whole thing with evil, with everything wrong, that all springs from the lower self. And remember, the lower self is limited to this world. It's limited to the physical world. So that means that even that aspect of evil, and wrongdoing is limited to a realm that has a physical realm that has a lower and a higher self. Because once you get out of the physical world, there is no more lower self. So that means evil is not eternal. It doesn't just follow you everywhere. All right. The actual nature of things, from a philosophical perspective is good. The nature of everything is good. All right. Love. Kind of hard to even imagine that, in this world, but that's the ultimate reality. Moving on to 67, which we already have discussed this, but name them, the two selves, the higher and the lower self, right? In the Quran, when the Prophet Muhammad was talking about jihad, he's really speaking about this battle within, with the higher and lower self. Okay. And really what this is about is learning and training yourself to think from the higher self, to eventually dwell in the higher self. All right. Which is eventually going to put you in direct communication or connection with Allah, because the higher self is Allah and man, which is also why you know what? I'm going to pause real quick. I want to ask, did anybody attempt to open their third eye in the middle of the night?
Islam. Yes, I did, brother. The same night that you shared that information, I think I had a glimpse of it. But I tried several nights after that, but nothing really happened. I'm not a real dreamer, but
Yeah.
that night, I followed your instructions to the T, and I had a short glimpse of I don't know what it was, but it was something. It was different than a dream. It was very vivid. Islam.
Islam. Islam. So, well, one thing with doing that, you might wind up having like a lucid dream where you're
Mm.
like, if you fall back asleep, where you're conscious, you're awake during your dream, and that, that in and of itself is, that's an amazing experience. That's how people astral travel. But I will repeat this just in case anyone wants to try that again. It's worth trying it over and over again. Um, Not something to stress out about though, but just in the middle of the night, before you go to sleep, just set the intent to, you're telling yourself, you say it out loud, or you could just say it in your mind that you want to open your third eye. And you're telling your body also to wake up in the middle of the night and open your third eye. You're just telling yourself that to wake up in the middle of the night and open your third eye. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do because you can wake up in the middle of the night and you're going to go back to sleep because that's just like you're tired, or you might go to the bathroom but you want to just stay in the bed and not really get up and wake up all the way. You want to just remember that you were supposed to open your third eye. And then
It's
that's the hardest
Islam.
part to do though.
Right. Islam. I want to add that I took a post-it note and wrote that down. I want to
Islam.
open my third eye and put it on my pillow. So it was suggestion definitely was strong. Islam.
Oh, you got it. Then it's gonna happen. Cause yeah, like just in doing that, cause it's all for yourself. So you do that, it'll happen. And yeah, it'll be unmistakable. I can't tell you what's gonna happen. It's just gonna be a personal experience, but you'll know. And one reason I wanted everybody to try that because when you open that third eye, you do connect to Allah and man, and it's a mind blowing experience that's indescribable in the scope of things. It's just indescribable, and that's how powerful it is. And that moves from just having faith to knowing. Allah is in you. You can't read this anywhere. This ain't something I got from the internet or that I read. You excuse me, you have to experience it. And so yeah, if everybody goes and tries this and just keep doing it. Even if you do it and it happens, do it again because it's powerful. And I'm gonna go ahead and move on, but try that. And if you have something you want to share later on, great. Share your testimony. All right. Gonna go ahead and move on to question 68. And this one might be a little confusing. What people represent the higher self? And the answer is the angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. And then remember earlier last week we were talking about question 60, and we said that what was 60? Who's guarding the holy city of Mecca? And then at that time, right? Because we could freak it to say that, hey, maybe the prophet's talking about Chicago, but no, you could say that maybe, but no, because he has this sultan who's one of the last sultans, because now they have kings, and that was Abdul Aziz bin Saud, and he's in the Holy Quran. And there was a lot going on at that point in time. Like right there, if you look at the things that were going on in 1926, matter of fact, there was a prince who was in Toledo, Ohio, who was in the newspaper. Okay. And the reason he was in the newspaper was because I think he had a gun, and there was like some confusion maybe with the law enforcement about him having a gun. I don't remember. I don't have the article right in front of me. But the fact is that in that article, it mentions that you had a Moroccan prince here in Toledo, Ohio, helping to get members to join the Moorish Science Temple of America. And matter of fact, I'm going to show this to you because some of you might not believe this. And the reason I'm sharing this is because, like, yeah, he was talking about Mecca over there. There was a lot going on that we don't understand. Okay, and things that that apply to us. Like, it's kind of hard to believe. Why would this even be going on? Right? But let me pull this article up real quick. I don't know. Has anybody ever heard of that before?
Nope.
All right, hang on. I'll get this real fast.
Hmm.
Okay, can everybody see that? Okay, so this is there's a picture. This is the prince and his like his guards, his sharifs, and this is a picture of the article. This is from 1931 in Toledo. I think it's in the Toledo Blade. It says Moroccan major says he didn't know of arms ban in Toledo. Prince faces pistol charge. This got his name, Ali Mustafa Abdullah, admittedly a Moroccan prince and organizer for the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, who shouldered a rifle in the Rif Wars. All right. And then he's saying he's the son of King Hussein, who was exiled in the Isle of Cyprus back in 1917, speaks 5 languages fluently. And then it's saying he will be examined by the grand jury, McLean Bay on Nebraska Avenue, arraigned with him before the judge. So the reason I'm saying that is because it's saying that he's an organizer for the Moorish Science Temple of America. Okay. And that's crazy because none of this stuff is really talked about or taught to us. But I was just sharing this because there were things going on in North Africa, in the place they call the Middle East now, that kind of coincided with the creation of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, and later the creation of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Let me see if I could throw one of these dates out there. Like, you had the Arab Revolt, and that was the military uprising of the Arab forces against the Ottoman Empire. And this is what World War I was actually around, based off of this. They won't teach you that in mainstream history. And that was around 1916. And the Moorish Divine and National Movement was actually founded on May 1st of 1916, a month right before the Arab Revolt took place. And then there's other dates like 1925, 1926, 1928, which is when the first convention happened, when the prophet actually put the American flag around the 12-year-old boy. And he says this represents the land. And then the 12-year-old girl, he puts the Moorish flag on her. And oh my, I'm so sorry, I forgot what she represented. But this happened, and he deemed us a nation. And they had the parade, which was announcing to the world that we're a nation. So all of these things are happening, and then things were happening over there as well that coincided with this. Okay? And then you had these things that were happening. They were actually over here interacting with us. And it's no one's going to tell you that. And so that's why I'm saying, yeah, he was talking about Mecca over there when in that question he's asking us who represents the angels over there. He's talking about Mecca over there in the East? Okay. What people represent the higher self, the angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. Now, people don't know that we had a Moroccan prince over here helping to organize and get people into the Moorish Science Temple of America. People have no idea how powerful the prophet was. Okay. But I did just want to share that. So this also was connected to what was going on over there. And we're going to go ahead and move on to 69. What people represented the lower self? And then the answer is those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accepted their teaching. All right. So if we're looking at that question in the context of the Arabian history between 1924 and 1932, then we know that those who were cast out of the holy city were the different Arab tribes who were run out of Mecca and Medina. And this was because the Sultan Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, he joined with his Wahhabi brethren, where they started a Wahhabi movement where they're bringing Islam back to the forefront. And he's unifying with all the Arab tribes. This is what Saudi Arabia came out of. And at that time, the people who were not going to get down with Islam, they were being run out. So in that point in time, when the prophet's saying this, they represented the lower self and they were cast out of the holy city. All right. And so for us, obviously too, you know, we know the characteristics of the lower self. So we know when it comes at us to we can recognize it. So we also can cast it out. We can you know, in similar ways, if you recognize, you know, like if somebody thinks they're slick, they think they're a hustler and they're trying to come at you, but you know the 5 ways that they can come at you, you recognize them. They can't get over on you, right? I saw somebody had their hand raised.
Islam, I just want to add, like, remember those layers, right? Because we know who else got kicked out of the holy city of Mecca. Well, you know, the Garden of Eden. You know, we could keep going. So just remember, you know, the descent. Remember the lower selves. Remember, you know, our earthly and divine salvation. Remember who's stuck on earth and who's not with us on a divine level. Islam.
All right. And then last, we have the question, what is the higher self? The higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. And so when you're given in that feminine perspective or that feminine principle or characteristic, that's telling you that, okay, the higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life. So that's telling you that the prophet is trying to teach us or get us in the mindset that the higher self gives birth to the virtues and harmonies. It gives birth to the virtues like justice, mercy, love, compassion, charity, gratitude, all of the 12 virtues from the 12-step ladder.
Islam.
And harmony, wherever harmony exists.
Islam, and that takes us back to the cover. Islam, you know, fallen humanity. You know, this is one of the few places where Allah refers to the mother. I mean, pardon the body. This is Noble Drew Ali and all his teachings as far as the Quran and the questionnaires. We don't see a lot of the mother. You know, even in our prayer, we hear about the Father of the universe, but we do know that in Allah there's a balance of feminine and masculine. So we don't point out where it's a mother or father. You know, Allah is the feminine, Allah is the masculine, and together it's the creation, Islam. But key 70, we have to go back to raise the teachers of our nation, the first teachers of our nation is the woman, because the woman bears the children. The woman is the first teacher of the children. So when the woman is full of light and illuminated and understand who she is and follow the teachings, we will start to see a change in our society, in our communities. That is very necessary, Islam.
All right, Islam. Islam, thank you for sharing that. Did anybody have any questions or anything else that they wanted to add? Okay, but I wanted to share that just to reiterate, because a lot of people have like revisionist history, and I mean, I'm not disagreeing that this wasn't part of Morocco. I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but in light of all that, like there actually were things that were going on. The Prophet was specifically talking about Mecca over there, talking about the Sultan over there, and who knew that people like that were actually over here working with us, Moorish Americans specifically, right? This is not well known. And we're not making this up. This was in the news. He was an organizer, a Moroccan prince was an organizer for the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Okay? And this is what they look like. This is the Prince Abdullah and these three people. You see these three Moors with them? So on that note, I want to go ahead and go into the closing. Appreciate you, Moors. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Islam, if there are no questions, without further ado, we'll go into the closing of the meeting. If everyone can stand, face the east, back on your square at a 45-degree angle, 2 fingers on the right extended, 5 fingers extended on the left, in the cactus pose. You do not have to repeat after me out loud, but I do recommend you repeat to self silently. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, Moors.
Islam, Moors.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam is
Beautiful. Islam. Much
Islam.
love. Peace and love.
Right, peace and love.